gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
What is going on, CaneSport? It is Izubee, Charles, and good morning to you all. It is March 14th, 2023, and I would like to thank everyone for joining us on Good Morning CaneSport. Today, I'm joined by Stephen Wagner as we break down the news of the day. First up this morning in the Miami Hurricane news, Dick Vitale is, one of the only analysts out there that really believe in the Miami Hurricanes basketball team this year after the draw for the NCAA tournament came out. A few guys were kind of skeptical about the Hurricanes, saying, hey, this Drake team at the 12 seed is maybe a problem for the Hurricanes. So we check in with Dick Vitale and see why he has that strong belief in the Hurricanes. And be sure to also check out Isaiah Wong's story about heading into the tournament for the Hurricanes as well. Steven, I want to pass it to you here. Miami coming with that number 5 seed. Always a tricky matchup with the 5 and 12. They're playing against a good Drake team. Just what are your thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, last year, whenever I had the chance to cover March Madness, I actually saw a 12-over-5 upset. So, there are a lot of really good 12 seeds out there historically. That's been one of the seeds to kind of keep an eye on for upsets. But I really think Miami's fortunes, especially in the first round, I think a lot of it is going to depend on if Omier is healthy or not. We've seen, he's kind of taken on that enforcer role in the middle, and I kind of have concerns about how physical, how dominating Miami is going to be without him if he ends up not playing in the first round. Because we've seen in the tournament kind of the key to success, unless you're going to have like a St. Peter's over Kentucky and Purdue type upset where you just shoot unbelievably well. And it just happens to be one of those nights where literally every single shot goes in. It can be really, really hard to win these games if you're not one of the more physical teams. I think it's one of the reasons why Houston is so well built for a Final Four run. It's one of the reasons why I always think Baylor is extremely dangerous, is because they kind of build themselves on this sort of hyper physicality. And without Omier, I kind of worry about Miami's ability to really be physical and really impose their will on a team early. And I think kind of the most dangerous thing about March Madness, more generally speaking, is every team has hope. If Duke was playing Mercer in the regular season, just another regular preseason basketball game before they get into ACC play, Duke would be the overwhelming favorite to destroy Mercer. But just like I think it was like 2014 or maybe it was 2012, whenever Mercer beat Duke, you get these teams on neutral sites, and all of a sudden, all of these really small teams who, ostensibly speaking, should get absolutely demolished by higher seeds that just outright have more talent than they do, they have a lot of hope, and that is really, really dangerous. You get a team who can just keep it close through a half, and all of a sudden, these underdogs start thinking to themselves, oh man, we've really got a shot here. We've already played them so close, or maybe we're even leading them, through the first 20 minutes. If we just do the exact same thing for another 20 minutes, we're going to have a legitimate shot to beat a higher seed here. And certainly, Drake's a team that's had tournament success in the past. I think that they're probably a team that's hearing a lot from their coach and from their fan base of, hey, it's not totally out of the question that you are capable of beating Miami. And they probably looked around and they've seen a lot of 4 versus 13s and a lot of 5 versus 12s, and even some 15s versus 2s who have been able to have this kind of success. And they're probably thinking to themselves, guys, we can give ourselves a legitimate shot here. Miami's clearly more talented. I think they've got the better coach. I think they've got the better players. I think they've had the better season. I think they're obviously very deserving of the 5 seed, being ACC champs or winning a share of the ACC title. But whether or not this is actually going to pay off in March, whether this is going to carry over, remains to be seen. So I'm cautiously optimistic about Miami's chances against Drake.
Yeah, Friday night at 7:45, Albany, New York. Make sure to check out the Drake versus Miami round of 64 game. I have to agree with you. With Norchad being a little banged up with a bum ankle, hopefully, everyone's really hopeful he'll play this week. The players are hopeful he wasn't in a walking boot. Coach Ellis says he's getting around the clock treatment for that ankle. So fingers crossed that he's able to suit up Friday night for that first game of the tournament. And I know we love talking about our basketball, but we have plenty of recruiting for you guys today. I wanted to introduce a new segment or series, however you call it, with me and Steven talking about two guys, in that 2024 class that we really like, and one kind of under the radar guy that we think can be, a big prospect or a guy that can really make an impact in that 2024 class in Miami. So I want to start off with my 2024 pick that I really like in Air Nolan out of Langston Hughes in Georgia, one of the top quarterbacks in that 2024 class. Put up video game numbers last year, 55 touchdowns, over 4,000 passing yards. I've seen him play in person as well at a couple of 7-on-7 events, and I really like what he's seen. Off the field, a great kid, very poised, very polite. So you love to see that out of a player, and he has a production on the field. So that's one guy that I really like in that 2024 class. Steven, I'll pass it on to you. Who's one guy that really excites you in that 2024 class?
I'm going to go with the guy that I put an RPM prediction in for last week with King Joseph Edwards. I believe he's the number 5 edge in the On3 industry rankings. Incredibly talented kid out of Georgia. A guy who's really high on Miami and a guy who Miami is really high on too. I put in an RPM prediction at about 65% confidence last week that he was going to end up with the Canes. Jeremy Johnson, one of the On3 national writers, he had an opportunity to catch up with King Joseph, and he reacted to an RPM prediction that On3 put in for him to land at USC, and he reacted to the prediction that I put in for him to land at Miami, and he said, I think they were both really good predictions. He's very clearly very high on both schools. Miami is well in the mix to be able to land a guy like King Joseph Edwards. I think one thing that you should kind of watch out for about his recruitment, especially kind of looking at this from USC standpoint, is USC is a lot more desperate to get better on the defensive side of the ball than Miami is. Now, keep in mind, Miami didn't recruit exceptionally well on the defensive line, and as far as their edge rushers go last year, I mean, Ruben Bain, obviously very, very huge get, but they only signed three linemen, one true defensive lineman and 2 edge rushers, including Ruben Bain. And so there are kind of some question marks about the depth at that position. But USC, they are really looking to rebuild the defensive side of the ball as quickly as they can. And certainly they're going to be operating with a sense of urgency toward King Joseph Edwards. We know Lincoln Riley can recruit. We know Mario Cristobal can recruit. So we might very well be in for kind of a 3-way battle, actually, between USC, Georgia, and Miami to land King Joseph Edwards.
Yeah, King Joseph's the guy that I really like in that 2024 class. And just sticking on the defensive side of the ball, one of my top, gets or needs at Miami, I hope them to see get in the 2024 class is Zaquan Patterson out of Madonna High School. We both had the chance to see him multiple times throughout the 7-on-7 circuit. And just what impresses me about him is just his explosiveness, whether he's playing offense or defense, where he's, potentially going to play at the next level in college. He's just an explosive guy. One thing that I really loved about him was him, willing to play special teams. At Madonna, he blocked 4 punts this year. I felt like every game I watched him, he was blocking a punt on the offensive side of the ball. He's catching touchdowns left and right. I'm just like, this guy is an all-around player and a guy that really likes Miami. I spoke with him not too long ago about, seeing a local guy like Cam Kitchens coming out of Miami Northwestern, having success at the same position at safety, an all-American guy. So Zaquan Patterson is one of those 2024 guys on the defensive side of the ball that is also local that I really like. And Steven, I'll go back to you for your last big guy in that 2024 class that you really like.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Juan Minaya on this one. He's a 6'6" offensive tackle out of New Jersey. He's ranked as a 3-star prospect. He's already got an official visit locked in for, I believe it's going to be June. I want to say 22nd through the 24th. But he had the opportunity to get down to Miami for their junior day a couple of weekends ago. And apparently the visit went extremely well. He continues to be very impressed by Miami. He's a guy who honestly kind of reminds me a little bit of Frankie Tinalau, or maybe even a Tommy Kinsler. Honestly, actually, yeah, I think Tommy Kinsler is probably a little bit of a better comparison, in the sense that Miami really sees something special in this kid. He's only ranked as a 3-star prospect, and he's all the way up in New Jersey. But Miami really has a serious interest in him, and he's got a serious interest in Miami. And it's serious enough that he's going to be willing to go ahead and take that official visit here in June. And we're already starting to see some kids go ahead and lock in their Miami official visits, and probably start working towards setting dates as we creep forward into the 2024 cycle and official visit season.
Sure. Now, kind of switching over to the under the radar guy, we both chose 2 South Florida guys. I'll let you go first with your under the radar prospect in that 2024 class.
Chris Wheatley Humphrey. He's a guy who's not ranked by Rivals or On3. I don't believe he's ranked by 247 or ESPN either. But this is a guy who has very, very quietly impressed some pretty big programs. He's had interest from Louisville. He's had interest from Ole Miss. I believe he's had interest from Florida State. I'm going to need to double check his profile on that one. But Miami really, really likes him a lot. They also got him down for a junior day visit. That was the second time that he's visited Miami in 2023. They also hosted him in late January, just before the February dead period, because they want to make sure that they could definitely squeeze in some FaceTime and an unofficial before the February dead period hit. They're continuing to hit him up pretty relentlessly. Pretty much as soon as Kevin Smith left, as soon as Kevin Smith left and Tim Harris was hired, Tim Harris really, really quickly established contact. He was in contact with both Kevin Smith and Tim Harris. So this is a guy who the entire staff kind of is really heavily valuing. And I think this is a guy who they really think, man, we found someone who, for whatever reason, nobody else has found. And he's someone that we really, really want.
Awesome. And with my under the radar guy coming from Christopher Columbus High School, as we all know, the alma mater for Mario Cristobal, Alex Mirabal, Alonzo Highsmith, and a plethora of players on the current Miami roster. And just what I love about him is when you hear Christopher Columbus, you think, 5-star linebacker TJ Capers on the defensive side of the ball, or defensive end Dylan Stevenson. But if you go watch them play, Dalen Russell is the heart of that defense, and he's just a force in the middle. And everything I've seen from him, I loved. High motor guy. For his size, 6'3", 255, he moves extremely well. And a guy that just caught my attention, one of the first times I watched Columbus High School this year. And with him, currently has an RPM projecting him to go to Miami, I believe, at an 87%. And after speaking with him, I also got that, vibe that he really likes Miami. One thing he always tells me about is that Christopher Columbus connection is real. And when he goes down there, they treat him like family. They treat him like one of the players. And Mario Cristobal, you see he wants to continue bringing those type of players in from his alma mater and that produce at a very high level. So Dalen Russell is one of the under the radar players, in my opinion, in that 2024 class that I really feel like Miami can really, do something with him. Not a guy that, top, high five programs are really after, but Miami sees something special in him, and he's noticed that, and he's kind of taken a liking to the Hurricanes and what Coach Cristobal is doing over there. Also, in some recruiting news, we have 2 updates from Steven from 2024 3-star edge Wyatt Gilmore, who said his visit to Miami went really well. Steven, just what were your impressions after talking to Wyatt all the way from Minnesota?
Yeah, at first I was kind of curious, what is Miami's real interest in this kid from Minnesota? Primarily because, he's a 3-star all the way from Minnesota. And, kind of you look at his recruitment, you look at the teams that have gone after him, a lot of Midwestern schools and then Oregon have really been some of the schools that have been up there for him. But as soon as I talked to him, I pretty quickly figured out, no, Miami really likes this guy, because it can be kind of hard to sift through, okay, which guys is Miami really, really serious about taking because they put out so many offers. But Wyatt Gilmore definitely seems like one of these guys that Miami really wants and likes. But yeah, he said that his visit to Miami went really well. He's continued to be impressed by the Canes. Miami's really making a push to make sure that they're firmly on his radar. I know Minnesota, his home state school of Minnesota, is another school that he likes quite a bit. He's also pretty high on Oregon. So I think it's going to be a little bit of it's going to be a little bit of a battle to maybe convince him to travel like 1,000 or probably 2,000 miles south, all the way to South Beach. But I do know that he likes the Canes. He likes kind of the genuine feel that the coaches have. He was impressed by the way that he saw their practice was run. He liked the energy that the players have. So I think that there are a lot of good things happening on that recruiting front. And, hey, palm trees and 80-degree weather in March isn't terrible, especially whenever you've got a winter storm warning back in Minnesota.
Exactly. That's one thing that I really taken a liking to with Coach Cristobal and the whole staff with recruiting. They're, not shying away from anybody. Guys from Minnesota. I think Gary and I talked yesterday morning about a guy from North Dakota, South Dakota. So these guys on the recruiting trail aren't turning any stone and just going after every guy. I know I saw a graphic not too long ago when Cristobal was at Oregon, how he had the number one player from, I believe, 10 or 12 states or some crazy number like that. So he's not afraid to go out to different areas in the country and recruit guys, and love to see that if you're a Canes fan. And to wrap it up, we do have the final story on Melbourne linebacker Emmanuel Small, who's kind of an under-radar prospect that Miami recently offered and targeted. Steven, what was your impression after talking to Emmanuel Small?
Yeah, it really seems like they're trying to get in on the ground level with Small. He also went to the same high school as Robert Stafford, one of the 2023. I believe he was a 4-star cornerback signee. On3 was really high on him. I know that Miami was really high on him, and the Canes really feel like they found a gem in that guy. And Emmanuel Small comes from the same system, plays at the same high school. Really kind of same background, same playing style, everything that he's going through. He's only got 2 other offers right now from Marshall and Middle Tennessee. Florida State's also been communicating with him, but I really think that Miami thinks, man, we're going to get in on the ground floor with this guy because he's a 2025 linebacker who's not yet ranked. It's pretty apparent that offers are going to start flowing in. It's only a matter of time. And I think Miami decided we want to be that first school or that first Power 5 school that gives him an offer. We want to get in on the ground floor. So whenever he is a 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, whatever star linebacker, he can look back and say, no, Miami was that first power program that really believed in me. They were the first ones who really wanted to establish contact. They were the ones who really wanted to get in on the ground floor. And we've seen that's absolutely worth a lot to these recruits. Ricky Knight, this is related but not related. Ricky Knight's another guy who initially was sort of an under-the-radar guy, but now he's kind of in a recruiting battle between Florida State and Miami, and one of the reasons why he remains so high on Florida State is because Florida State was the first program to offer him. And so I definitely think that Miami understands the value of being first, and just extending that offer. There's definitely no harm in just extending the offer. Keep in mind, this is a 2025 kid. Miami doesn't even know what their total 2024 recruiting class is going to look like yet, much less 2025. So I think that they're ready to go ahead and start building that relationship with him, and they understand it's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Thank you for that, Steven. And as always, stay tuned for any news that may come up on the website today. And that is all that we have for Good Morning CaneSport. For Steven Wagner, I'm Izubee Charles. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.